emotional intelligence. So yes, there you see Lata Singh and myself. We represent Emotional Ethics and Meravilla EQ Academy. So what is Emotional Ethics? Just a small brief about it. The vision of this startup is to impact lives through emotional advocacy. Mission is to drive excellence in business through emotional intelligence and decision sciences. We are a specialized HR consulting consortium that provides niche services in the area of emotional literacy, HR consulting, OD certifications, and experiential workshops. We're a team of professionals and subject matter experts in the area of emotional intelligence and leadership, and this has been founded by me in 2019. So Meravilla EQ Academy, I think I would like Lata to talk about it. Lata,
Thank
please.
you so much, Annapurna. So MEQ Academy's vision is to work in the field of education, and we have been, working for past 3 years in schools while we provide social emotional learning workshops and teachers training. We are now stepping into the higher education with emotional ethics and success dynamics. And today we have Robert Jerus, who will be telling us that why it is important, why we should have EI in higher education as well. So our dream of reaching out to maximum people in India is coming true, and I'm so happy I'm living it now. And that's the main mission of the company, to provide emotional intelligence to everyone and make a healthy and happy society where we all are aware of our emotions and can manage them well as well. So over to you, Annapurna. Thank you.
Thank you. And Meravilla means miracle. It is an Italian word, right,
Yeah.
Lata?
Yes.
So we
Thank you so
wanted to do
much.
miracles.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. So what was the highlights? 2 days of India's first and only virtual emotional intelligence summit, which we had done on 10th and 11th. Sorry, I had told 9th and 10th, because 9th and 10th of 21 already I started working on it. So those dates are getting registered, and I forgot these dates. 10th and 11th of October. 10th is observed as World Mental Health Day. And we had the theme as EI for all. As I told you, 40 speakers. We had almost 300 plus actually attending, and diverse participants. So on this occasion, what we also did is we did a lot of little way of our gratitude giving. So we planted 55 trees, and 40,000 rupees was raised through this, and 20,000 was donated to Bale Mane. That is a NGO which is taking care of girl children. So we had donated there for the health hygiene of girls during COVID, and another 20,000 we are using it for Navjyoti Skill Foundation, skill upgradation of Navjyoti students in Delhi. So this is where we are trying to do. And here we also have released a compendium of 30 articles. Anyone who wants to get hold of this is a completely good way to read on all the themes which we had. So this is there. Again, the proceeds of this is going for only for donation. So we have kept it at 499 rupees. So if anyone wants to have a copy of this, you can always reach out to us. You can take it, and you can have all research articles, and a lot of good different topics have been given. So it is a very good position for all of us. Then we also have a YouTube channel. We've uploaded all the talks over there. So anyone again interested to listen to that, so kindly go to the YouTube channel and listen to all of those talks at your own convenience. We also have our LinkedIn EI tribe group. So be part of our emotional intelligence tribe group. You can get all the updates over there, learnings over there, everything over there. So you can join this group also on the LinkedIn. So we also are very, very, very happy that we have affiliated partners with EI for Change and MEQ Academy and Emotionetics to give online learnings. We also I had missed one more slide. Actually, I will talk about it a little later. So we started after that. After once we have finished our emotion, can the microphones go on mute, please? Can the microphones go on mute, please? Yeah, thank you so much. So after we have completed our the summit in October, from November onwards we have started this masterclass series 12. So So until we go back to our again the 2021 summit, we will be having every 10th of every month we'll have our masterclass. So please look forward. We have very classic topics going on. So kindly attend these topics. So first one we had from Shushma Bantia, where she talked about an interactive and experiential workshop, understanding and practicing empathy. We had the second by Anu Krishna. Sorry, this is a wrong name here. Master your thoughts, master your life. And this is the series 3. I missed out the poster, I think so. Yeah. Series 3, we had it from Robin Hills. And series 4, we are having it from Robert Jerus, who's in front of you. And this is not the end, or this is not the just the listen. We also are having this weekend. Please come and date with us on the Valentine Day with India's one and only Positive Psychology Summit. The theme is Be Positive. We have no registration fee for this. It is a free of event, a day-long event. We are only collecting some kind of fund towards our this one. The minimum is 100 rupees and maximum is your choice. But you can always register with us. And I think in the chat box, I think Lata would have already put the link. So kindly take the link, register yourself, and please be there for the complete day's event, because we have Dr. TV Rao doing the keynote address. We have Fulbus and Padma Shree's awardee Fulbus by Yadav featuring on a special interview. We have Sridhar, who is talking on emotional health and science of happiness. We have Bhavna Jain talking on breakthrough leadership through positivity. We have Pramod Sadadoshi, who's talking about an heartfulness approach. We have a fireside chat which is happening between Jimmy Jain and Lata Singh on possibility thinking. And we have the HR leaders of different organizations talking on a panel discussion on resilient leadership in the workplace. Kindly register and please be there with the whole of the day. You will not regret of spending your Valentine Day with us, for sure. So with this, I will also talk about today's, I will do the context setting for today's talk, what we are trying to have and how did that begin. So as Lata was saying, that emotional intelligence for higher education. So we have seen in the country that emotional literacy per se itself is not there. And as we began our journeys Lata has done a lot of work in the schools, and while I was doing more of work in the corporates, and then we also saw the bridge between the schools and the corporates is the higher education room. And this higher education is something which we have not even touched upon, and this is where we require emotional intelligence. So what we did is we success dynamics, we MEQ Academy and emotional ethics has collaborated with success dynamics, and we are very happy to have collaborated with success dynamics. The success dynamics is represented by Robert Jerus, and we have curated this program, and we already have the first cohort in place which is running. The second cohort is starting from 19th of March, and we would request all those who are in the academic field to come forward and do it with it. And what is the benefit of doing it with doing this course with us? It is a very high intense course coming from success dynamics, as because Robert Jerus himself has curated the whole of the syllabus with his 40 years of experience in being himself as a professor. He has seen through the journeys. He's a business psychologist. He has taught accounting. He has taught business psychologies and various other subjects. And he has researched in emotional intelligence. And often he says that I'm still a practitioner. I have not yet arrived in emotional intelligence. That is the depth of emotional intelligence. So, and he says that, we have to practice EI day in and day out. And with his help and with him directly giving, and he himself being the facilitator for this course, I think nothing great than this can happen, wherein we learn from the master guru himself. And after completing this course, this is a 12 weeks intense course wherein we'll have 4 hours of sessions in per week, and total of 100 hours. 48 hours we are doing it as an instructor led program. 42 hours we will do it for a project, doing for project this one, submitting a project. 2 hours is an assessment, and 10 hours is a self-reading. So totally it would come to 100 hours of your investment. Post this, once you have finished this course and you get certified, you can either yourself work as an independent coach, you can work with emotional and MEQ as trainers or coaches with us, because we are doing a lot of this. We are also setting up emo labs, so you can come and work with us as emo labs instructors, designing everything and all. You can be a faculty in higher education institutions to impart this EI sessions. You can also do research and publications. So a variety of scope is there. I've just mentioned the top 5 which you could do, but there is a lot of scope. And in the new education policy, in the Atmanirbhar Bharat, the schemes which are coming out in India, and many more things, I think we can integrate and we can do a lot of it. You can start your own practice also. So over to you with this. I would humbly, with a lot of gratitude, welcome Robert Jerus, who is always there with us, who has always been giving us training, coaching, mentoring, and been with us every time whenever we have requested him to share about emotional intelligence, which he is also very passionate. Kindly follow him on LinkedIn. You would not be surprised. Every day his post on EI and every day's learnings. And Robert comes with 4 decades of experience. And as I said, he has been a professor teaching, and then he's an author. He has written his book called Mind Matters, and a lot over from him. And I would now rest myself, and then I would hand it over to Robert to take over the session and speak on why there is a huge need of emotional intelligence in higher education. Thank you so much, and stay tuned, all of you, and put your questions on the chat box. As soon as Robert completes his session, we will take all the questions. Every question is a good question, so please just shoot your questions to ask, so that Robert is here for us to, just answer all of them and clear all our doubts and things like that. Welcome you, Robert, and here I stop, and you can go ahead and take your session, please. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Uh, some of you who know me already are used to the fact that I like visuals, so I'm going to be sharing the screen right off the bat because I like to, I think you'd rather look at what I have to say instead of hearing me talk. One of the things we've been getting is a major change in higher education, frankly, education at all levels. In the last few years, some of you, Annapurna keeps talking experience, and she makes me feel so old. But one of the things I usually try and warn people is the world of education is shifting dramatically, and it's not the same world that we were used to. When I was young, we learned, gee whiz, you have a guaranteed experience if you're in accounting. Well, if you're in engineering, there's always a job for you. And that's not been quite true anymore. Well, what goes on? What continues on? It's the relationships we have, it's the experiences we have. And a lot of what we learned in college, university has become outdated. It's yesterday's news. It's not a guarantee anymore. It's not the career you're looking for. Uh, I like to start with poverty and well-being in countries. It's about safety. It's about socialization, feeling valued. It's not about the degree you have, the credentials you have, what's occurring. So, what's happened in our world is we're starting to look more and more towards relationships, more and more towards emotional intelligence of how do we get to where you want to be. I'm going to cover a lot of material because I want to go quickly to give you kind of a feeling of what's happening. Academic success goes with EI. You can't do one without the other. But yet, we've been focused in academia on cognitive skills. We've been focused on careers. We've been focused on not the whole person. So we're looking at kind of what I'd say is unhealthy behaviors. It's teach people to think scarcity.
Hello.
Let's teach them to be competitors. And we need to teach
हाँ
collaborate.
बोलिए, how are you? Sorry.
So we want to educate both the mind and the heart. So we start looking at what are we trying to teach people? We're trying to teach them about self-awareness. Who are you? Are you comfortable in your own skin? Are you self-confident? Do you know your feelings? I don't know about you folks, but I don't remember anybody ever talking about feelings and emotions when I was a student. I don't know about anybody who ever talked about being happy, but they talked about careers. They talked about getting things, possessions, but they didn't talk about relationships. So we talk self awareness. We talk, can you motivate yourself? Can you excite yourself? How's your self regulation? Can you manage your feelings? Can you make them work for you instead of against you? How are your social skills? Do you get along with people? Can you work with other people? Can you collaborate? So often we have individuals and we don't get into the group. Do you understand other people? You understand how they feel, why they feel, how you feel, why you feel? So we're going to talk about, let's put this systemically in schools. It's not just one class, although there should be a class in it, but we need to integrate it throughout the curriculum. The Dalai Lama talked about modern education. We pay attention to brain development, but we don't develop the heart. We take that for granted. It doesn't happen by accident. So we're looking at emotions, communication, relationships, getting all of that stuff to happen. And it's not going to be an accident. I'm going to skip a little bit quicker, but we need to recognize that it isn't just about the students. And it's easy to lose track of things and think just the students in the chairs. Well, we need to get those student learners to perform at peak levels, to have the greatest experiences, to develop the relationships. But we need to go one step further. Let's get the faculty involved. Let's get the school administrators. Let's get the whole team involved. They need to be role models. They need to recognize this importance. Every school has got leaders. They may be the students, they may be people who come in to speak, they may be the career development professionals. So we want to get these team players on board as well. And then last but certainly not least, we want to get the community, your family, the people outside of the school telling students at an early age, this is important. It's not about school, it's about life. So we need to get the orientations. Typically, we start looking at colleges, universities, schools, and the student focuses on me, me, me. What do I want to do? What's going to pay me money? What's going to get me the rewards? And we need to shift that focus a little bit into community. Who do you want to serve? Where do you want to give? What do you want to do? What kind of relationships do you want to have? What kind of people do you want to work with? How do you want to contribute to society? How do you want to have a quality of life? How do you want to make life better for other people? And all too often, that's not the focus. In fact, rarely is it. So we need the four groups: the students, the administrators, the influencers, and the community as well, especially families, especially parents. They can't be neglected. They can't be an afterthought. They need to be part and parcel of everything you're doing. So if you're going to try and teach and you're going to tell students it's just for school, you've missed it. It's not just for school, it's for life. So let's look at what we get from emotional intelligence. Well, I've been in business for too long. If you sit there and tell me you're going to do something, what's the return? What's going to happen? If your institutional isn't effective, it's going to fall by the wayside. Look at how we talk to students. We don't say, what career do you want first? what are your grades in your courses? We usually ask things like, what do you like at school? What's your favorite subject? Who's your favorite teacher? What do you enjoy? And that's where the rubber hits the road. It's critical that we start thinking about these as we ask it in a social context, but it's important. If you're not having fun, if you're not having the relationships, if you're not enjoying the experience, you're going to be mediocre at best in any field you choose. So we need to get the careers recognizing this is essential. We need to make emotions, relationships part of personal success. Students who learn EI achieve at much higher levels. They're more engaged, they're more resilient. We wind up getting better achievement for any of the schools. Your students stay longer if they're recognized with EI, if the relationships are valued. We get long-term results. We get happier people, healthier people. So what we're looking at is your habits of your mind, your emotional literacy. Can you tell me what's happening? Your relationships. Very often I'll use the term heartfelt intelligence as an alternative to emotional intelligence because I hear people trying to separate things, and that separation generates confusion. I hear people talking about collaborative intelligence, relational intelligence, communication intelligence. For me, it's all about the heartfelt things. So what happens is we look at Dan Goleman, who's the man who popularized it. We can't ignore emotional intelligence if people are going to achieve their destiny, if they're going to get to who they want to be. It's a terrible deficiency. What do we teach students in schools? I was part of it. I was a professor for too many years. And I try and tell people, what are you doing in the schools? You're teaching them to be competitive. You're teaching them that we have a win-lose mentality. And then when they leave school, we're trying to tell them collaborate, co-create, partner. And that's hard to shift gears if we haven't laid the foundation in the schools. So we need to create life. We look at a lot of these things, emotional behaviors, acting out. It's terrible to hear it, but mental health has been an afterthought in most schools, in most systems. It's remedial. It's pejorative to people. You need to have your head examined. You're crazy. But yet we need to integrate this mental health, this mental well-being into schools. We've got bullying, we've got harassment. It's pandemic. We've got depression, we've got skyrocketing suicide rates. And yet in the educational system, that's where we need to address these things. It's socially irresponsible not to be taking this into account. We want to have people who can emotionally relate when they graduate. It's not just about the academic grades. It's not just about you. It's about a community. It's about relationships. It's about experiences. Students who succeeded in EI, they've got better interpersonal skills. They're better with stress. Big secret. If you manage stress better, you succeed at much higher levels. They're adaptable. They're agile. They're flexible. Now, again, secrets about school. You graduate with a college degree, a university degree. You're going to spend, on the average, about 7 years in that field, and then you're going to change. So you're getting your university degree for approximately 7 years after you graduate. We need to teach skills for life. It's not a good investment if I'm only teaching you for 7 years. If you're depressed, if you're anxious, if you're worried, if that's your focus, your grades are going to suffer. School is going to be more of a have to instead of get to. If we delay gratification, tell people to look at the long picture, they're happier, they're more productive. Students respond to setbacks much better if they have emotional intelligence. If they're not empathetic, they tend to be low achievers. They tend to be the people who act out. Resilience, college transition, transition to life from school, these are all critical. This is from 6 Seconds, one of the leading companies out there, but they're looking at the values that we're getting, the performance values we're getting from emotional intelligence. It's critical. So what are we looking at? We're looking at the EI skills that compensate for these problem skills we have in schools. Are you destructive? Are you negative? About 70% of the time, we're telling ourselves negative things, especially our students, our young people. If they're not self-aware, if they don't have good self-esteem, they're going to struggle, especially our high achievers. Watch students in a classroom. They notice what they got wrong first. They don't notice what they did right. We need to enhance their confidence, their self-esteem, their self-awareness. They're important and they need to understand it. I don't know about you, but I've felt unmotivated and overwhelmed different days. Well, how are your self-management skills? Do you goal set? Do you manage your time? Do you manage your resources? Have your drives kicked in? Are you strong? How are you with communication, other relationships? Are you assertive? Do you have good boundaries? Or are you aggressive or maybe timid? How do you deal with a hostile environment when things don't go your way? Can you create the struggle or are you part of the struggle? Are you afraid or are you thinking about abundance? In our world today, fear is one of the more common emotions. So is depression. It results in suicide. It results in low performance. And yet we're allowing these to take root and thrive. With COVID and the pandemic, it's gotten worse. Suicide rates are astronomical, especially with young people. We need to tell them they've got all of life in front of them. There are options, there are opportunities. There's so much to see and do. The high school studies, most of them who drop out in high school drop out because they don't like school. They don't like school. That's an emotional statement. It's not a cognitive one. 40% have failing grades. Well, how much of that is about stress, about the structure that we're creating? They don't have a good relationship with the teachers. They don't get along with their peers. They're unable to keep up. In the year of COVID, I just cringe to think of the statistics we're going to get after this. So we're looking to grow emotional intelligence. Let's get those relationships happening. We need to create schools where the learners are safe emotionally, physically, and that mental stuff. Can I talk? Can I express a question? Can I ask? Is this okay socially? Maybe I'm overweight. Maybe I'm ugly. Maybe I don't have the latest clothes. Is it socially safe being here? How about violence? Have we eliminated it? At least minimized it? Is learning organized? Is it purposeful? Does everybody understand the objectives? Learning needs to be supported. It's not a just once and done deal. It's got to be enforced. It's got to be reinforced over and over again. It's got to be conditioned. We smile. You get to go to school. You don't have to. Let's follow up. We're in a world now where coaching has taken off. We need to teach teachers that not only are you a teacher, but you're a coach. you're investing in people's lives. Can we support students? Can we have the relationships? Can we have dialogue? Are the learners challenged? We want to have a curriculum where they expand themselves, where they self-actualize, where they achieve at the best. But we want to be realistic. We don't want them to think of failure as fatal. In America, we use so many bad expressions. Second place is the first loser. If you're not number one, it doesn't count. But yet, so many of us are looking at that being the be all and the end all. What do I want to be? I want to be the CEO of the company. Well, maybe I want to help people. Maybe I want to serve. Maybe I want to be giving. That may be more important. Are learners being active? Are they giving you feedback? Are they telling you what's working, what's not? Are they looking forward to it? Are they finding opportunities? And then the fourth quadrant, learning is measurable and meaningful. I hear so many people say that emotional intelligence can't be measured. Phooey, you're wrong. It certainly can be measured. Part of why I got into emotional intelligence is it's measurable, it's meaningful, and it's capable of improving. So we want to value this. We want to get people connected. We want to improve it. We want to nurture it. It certainly can and should be learned. First years of college. Are we doing EI? Probably not. The most common major in universities, undecided. How are we dealing with stress? Not real well. So we're looking at trying to get freshmen, younger people, to recognize the opportunities, the possibilities. Are they transitioning well? How's the university experience? Successful students are self-motivated. They realize it's up to them. They've got to control their impulsive deals. They've got to manage their time. They've got to figure out what counts, what courses they want to be, what do they want to do, what tasks they need to complete. How do you keep up with the readings in the university? Are you willing to take a chance? Are you going to stay in your comfort zone? And in that comfort zone, there isn't high achievement. Are you going to be independent? Are you going to figure it out for yourself? Now, this graphic shows the good news and the bad news. The gains. You're going to get along with people better. You're going to enjoy life better. You're going to perform at, excuse me, you're going to perform at higher levels. You're going to be a higher academic achiever if you're better off emotionally intelligent. For the schools, student retention goes up dramatically with emotional intelligence. Your relationships, your collaboration, your teamwork, all priorities. You enhance empathy. You're happier. You like schools. A lot of people laugh at me. I've still got relationships with many of the students that I had, it's scary to hear this, 40 years ago. But they're friends, they're colleagues now. What do we reduce in schools through emotional intelligence? Let's reduce the behavior concerns. Let's make it a safe place. Let's make it a fun place, an enjoyable place. More emotional intelligence, we lower stress, we lower anxiety, we lower tension. We lower aggression. We involve people. We include people. We lower the distress. We get better performance all the way around. Why aren't we doing this? It doesn't make sense to neglect emotional intelligence. To train the mind and not the heart is a waste. So our successful students, they have EI. They're low stress. They're in the flow. They're succeeding at the highest levels. They're actually finding things that we didn't even know they could do. The struggling students, they're fearful, they're afraid, they're stressed, they're depressed. They're going to blame other people. It's about the school, it's about the teacher, it's about the system. They're bored, they're anxious, they're worried. They don't see much in the future. So we want to increase EI. It gets better families. It lowers all those negatives. Uh, it's a silver bullet for people, really. I get frightened when I try and tell people I haven't found anything in my years of teaching that's as necessity for life as EI. Not only that, it stays with us. We want to create successful students. I want to make them active listeners. I want to teach them the life skills. I want to teach them agility. I want to teach them to change. I want to teach them relationships. I want to teach them what success is about. And again, they graduate from college. They think success is about possessions. They think success is about the big house. They think success is about having that big bank account. And they've sort of neglected that success is really going to be about those relationships, those connections, that fun we have in life, those experiences, those memories. Now, you're going to hear my passion here because I get irritated when people think of this and they get it wrong. I want to see more people who are coaches in schools. I don't care if you're a teacher, you're an administrator, you're an outside adjunct person. We need more people who come alongside and facilitate in company, in school, wherever. And what happens is we need encouragers, people that set the tone. EI is the key. And with that, I'm going to stop so we can go to questions, we can go to discussions, and we can move to other possibilities. So I'm going to start sharing, and let's get on to what your interests are. Is there anybody else here if I put all of you to sleep?
So, Bob, here is a question from Bhavani, and he wants to know that how do we create a positive emotions as a culture in higher education? And also, when we are dealing with hundreds of students in each batch, how do we focus on each child?
Terrific question. First thing that happens in schools, and you're going to hear the academic in me, but we get used to Bloomberg's taxonomy. We set up academic objectives when we set up a class, and we don't create EI objectives. We don't create the objectives of we've got to have relationships. We're going to have some fun here. We're going to make this a positive experience. So the first thing I'm going to tell you is if you want to integrate, if you want to use EI in classrooms, we need to set the tone with having some emotional objectives in that classroom, having those emotional objectives at home, having those emotional objectives in the community. They're not secondary, they're important. So that's going to set your culture. Once your teachers, once your administrators, once your community is aware of this as a priority, the culture is going to shift. Now, I love because I had classes with 100+ students. We've got to create relationships. We've got to create relationships between the teachers and the students. Do you know them? Do you care about them? Are you resonating with them? Are you listening to them? Are you hearing them? That teacher isn't just in the classroom. It's outside the classroom. It's in the office. It's on campus. It's in the activities. Is the teacher investing in them? And if he or she isn't, they're not emotionally intelligent themselves. So the teachers need to be emotionally intelligent. The people need to recognize these are priorities. They need to integrate this through campus life. It's not a secondary thing. It's not an accident. And if you think it's going to happen by accident, you're mistaken.
Uh, Bob Ramesh here. I have a small clarity to obtain. Uh, there's been a lot of research which very clearly says that EQ needs to be inculcated as early as possible in the academics. So I think there's a huge amount of work which is going on, especially inculcating the EQ right at the early stages of educations. Now, and as you rightly said, when we are talking about inculcating EQ, it's all around 360-degree stakeholders being involved in it. Now, what I would like to know from you with your experience and your expertise and master of this, how is it different when we are trying to intervene in higher education with EQ, where these people have never been exposed earlier to any EQ, or maybe what they have learned through their, evolving through the ages, what they would have learned bits and pieces, how it would be different when we are starting at a smaller level, earlier level, or at a higher educational level?
One person asked me a couple of weeks ago, and it was funny because he asked exactly your question. He said, what's the best age to start learning emotional intelligence? And I simply looked at him and said, how old are you right now? Let's start. The answer is at any age you start. In Japan right now, the first few years of school, they aren't having grades. They're trying to stress social skills and collaboration. When I first heard that, I was in academia for a long time. And I'm sitting immediately responding of, how dare you? You need the grades. You need to tell people how they're scoring. And then I kind of look at most of us in this group right now. How many people ask you, how well did you do in second grade? Uh, were you very good at lettering? Were you, did you excel at drawing those pictures? Uh, I'm sorry, I was a slow learner. I took till the third grade to learn arithmetic. Who cares? Um, I was a school psychologist. Again, I'll go back to your question deliberately. One of the things that happens in the United States is we get in love with the concept of IQ. We lose track of EQ. And one of the things that happened to me in the United States is, as a school psychologist, if you filled out the right paper, the right forms, I don't know how bureaucratic you are in India, but in the United States, especially in academia, we love bureaucracy. So what happened to me is, if the parents filled out the forms, we were required to do IQ tests and behavioral studies of students. That typically took about half a day per student. It was an incredible waste of time for a psychologist. And the reason I'll tell you this is, what happens is, up to about that third grade, at the very least, you wind up having a student who's a high achiever and everybody catches up. He stops achieving at such a high level. Or you get a low achiever who suddenly blossoms. I always love the school terms. And up to the third grade, I wound up telling people, your IQ really doesn't matter. It's fluctuating, it's changing. Your EQ, is the child playing well with other kids? Does he have friends? Does he have relationships? Does he like school? He's going to do better in the long run. Now, we're talking about EI in higher education before I go too far afield and Annapurna yells at me. I want to make the comment that I believe that EI should be taught early. Teach it in the home, teach it in the family, teach it in the parents, teach it in grammar school, teach it in kindergarten, teach it in middle school, teach it in high school, but certainly make sure you teach it in high school and universities. Again, I'm going to pick on my own experience for you guys. I've got friends that were my friends in high school, and now I'm old, but we're still friends. Many, many years ago. Keep in touch. My wife makes fun of me because I'm old now. I played football in college, and our captain is still my friend. And my wife is like, you guys will talk about football. And with the Super Bowl in the United States, of course we talked about football. And my wife is like, you haven't played football in I don't know how many years. He played professional. but Kim hasn't played pro football in many years. But that friendship, that relationship we have is still rich. 40 years ago. And um, I don't know how many things I got 40 years ago that I don't have now, but I can talk about relationships I got 40 years ago that I still have.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob. And there is another thing which is coming up from Usha Prasad. She's telling, wouldn't it be better to introduce EI at teacher training level itself? So every trained teacher would be a better equipped coach from entry level itself. This would in fact become a culture to be followed religiously by everyone involved with academics. So what are your comments? Of course, Lata does a great work there, but still I wanted you also to comment on that, what Usha is saying.
Here's where you're going to get me shaking my head at the school system. What we reward is we don't reward teachers having high EI. I've actually been at schools where they tell you that they don't want teachers to have friendships or relationships with students. And I sort of scratch my head of, you're missing it. If people ask, and again, I'm going back to my experience for years as a teacher, and I'm going to ask you guys the magic question to think back when you were university students. If I ask you about the best teacher you ever had, think about him or her carefully. You're probably not going to tell me, Professor Patel had this wonderful lecture. You're going to tell me about the relationship. You're going to tell me he cared about us. You're going to tell me his class was fun, but you're not going to tell me about lectures. Somehow we need to integrate a system that encourages and supports teachers with EI. We need to encourage them that this is a priority for them as well. I've had schools tell me, of course we do EI. How do you measure it? How do you assess it? How do you reward teachers who are good in it? And the answer is, we don't. So you're not doing it. So you need to integrate it into the system. You need to teach teachers regularly. You need to make it an important priority, not, wow, having a degree in math is much, much more important than having that relationship with the students. And yet, over the years, I'll tell you honestly, the teachers I had the best relationship with, I'm not sure I even knew where they got their degrees or what their degrees were in, but I knew they cared. I knew they were involved with their students. I knew they were invested in us succeeding in life. So that's where I'm going to try and tell you is the priority. We need to get people to understand this isn't an afterthought. This isn't we do wonderful engineering. And by the way, we're going to throw in some EI. No, it's got to be, we're doing engineering and emotional intelligence. We've got this throughout the curriculum. It's a priority, and it's always going to be a priority. It's not a fad.
Thank you, Bob, for that. Thank you. So I think we have, yeah, okay. There is Srinivas telling beautiful insights brought out. My question is, what can be done to bring families on the same page for EI from higher education perspective, especially from Indian context? Bob, from Indian context, you want to tell something based on your experience?
Well, I'm going to just start with the families. One of the things that stretches us all is, again, Lata's probably going to want to chime in on this right away, but a lot of schools wind up looking at the educational system as babysitters. We've got COVID, which has created new problems everywhere where students are doing things online. And mom and dad, again, you can, Lata, I'm looking at you as the expert here, but in the United States, mom and dad go off to their jobs. We have daycare, we have nannies, we have helpers, we have all sorts of people taking care of our kids, especially the school system. And mom and dad have abdicated. they don't see it as their responsibility to teach their children. They see it as the school's responsibility. And I'm going to go back and tell you the first responsibility is mom and dad and the rest of the family, then the school system. It's not the school system and you're helping the school system. We've got it flipped in the United States. I don't know how India is. Lata, I'm going to ask you, you can tell us about there.
Yeah, so I think, when it comes to emotional intelligence, it is same everywhere around the world. We all are emotion being and we see emotions as same, no matter how much, we say we are from different regions, different country. But when it comes to emotion, we all react in the same way. So we are too much, concerned about our children. We think the same way. So to your question again, I would say that families also have to come forward when it comes to practicing AI. They also need to work on their emotions. They need to start practicing. As Bob said, there is no age to start practicing emotional intelligence. Even if I am 70 years old, I can start practicing on my EQ. Why I am, feeling what I am feeling, what is happening inside me. This is an inside job. So everybody, like as a parent, if I yell on my child, I need to ask myself why I am yelling on my child. What is happening inside me? What is it that I am looking forward to that should happen? So the question comes to me again. So I need to work on myself. So EI, is for everyone, be it a family member, child, teachers, principal, anyone related to this, universe. We all are emotional beings and we need to work on ourselves. So it can be anywhere in the world, but yes, the magic is here that we have to go inside us. We have to look inward when it comes to emotional intelligence. The answer is within us. We know what we want from within. So that's my say
Very
on
true.
this.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you, Bob. Wonderful, wonderful. You
Yeah. I
brought it out.
think
Thank you.
also Lata, what she substantiates it with is also the parents coach certification program where parents enroll and do the EI coach. So that is
Okay.
where today what it is just kids also need, parents need it, teachers need it, the corporate leaders need it, everyone, it is entire ecosystem needs EI. So, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, it is just like how we have learned maths, physics, whatever we have learned throughout science, the basics. We learned all those basic subjects throughout the school, but unfortunately, EI has not been blended with it. So we always chased IQ, but never EQ. And EQ is the only differentiator when we actually arise and sit in our careers. We see that either it could be kid or either it could be in a higher education student or in corporates. We see those leaders who have really been successful are those leaders who have actually demonstrated EQ, not IQ. They might be great at their IQ levels, but if they couldn't handle one crisis or one situation, so that's it. I think they should they
Yeah.
should not.
Actually, yeah. Yeah. Just to add to you, ma'am, actually, my question came from, I'm belonging to a higher education institution. I see a lot of resistance among parents. So
Absolutely.
that's what I wanted to understand from the,
Yeah.
expertise here. How do we
Yes.
deal with the resistance
So
for
Srinivas,
them
this
to come onto the
landscape
board?
is very, very large, and we have just begun our
Yeah.
journey and we are deep diving
Yes.
every
Yes.
day. Lata and me feel it so frustrating and sometimes that, oh my God, we are talking only about kids and teachers, but we see that there is a restriction from parents. So yes,
Yes, ma'am.
so all of us have to come together, all of us have to come together.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Namita
Yeah.
is
Yes.
asking one more question. Let's take it. She's telling in the post-pandemic and schools from home, yes, SEL is even more of a challenge. And any work from home and online education specific suggestions to help EI when interactions of a normal life are missing? Very good question, Amita. I think, Bob, this is what she wants to check. When we are all on online stress and children learning from online, so how would we take care of our, SEL programs, social emotional learning?
Well, first of all, I'm going to tell you that you need to figure out how to make learning fun. It's not going to be an accident. The other one that we neglect, and I'm going to pick on myself as a teacher because we do this all the time. There's a curriculum. There's materials you have to cover, and you have to get this covered. So you look at students and please be quiet. Let me get through this. I have to cover this content. I see a nod there. Someone else who can relate to, I have to cover this content. but you need to recognize the priorities of those relationships, the engagement. One of the things that's happening when teachers have gone to the COVID world of online is we need to recognize that a few minutes of chat time is probably not a waste of time. And again, I'm picking on things that I've heard, I've probably done myself. Stop wasting time. We need to get on to our material for the day. That's not wasting time. Maybe we need to have a few minutes chat of what's happening today. What do you want to talk about for a couple of minutes? You know, do you want to talk about your dog? Do you want to talk about your cat? When I was young, again, it's amazing, but the older I get, the more you start realizing that bring back some of the things you did when you were young because they really had value you didn't understand. Again, I'm going to look to anybody there. When I was young as a student, we had show and tell, which was a wonderful kids exercise where I'm just reaching over here to grab something. This is the bread. My mommy makes sandwiches for me on this every day, and it's really tasty, and I love it, and this is terrific. And then it gets conversation. Lata announces, yeah, my mommy does the same thing. Well, I'm not going to say my mommy, but when we get older, talk about what's important to you. You know, gee, I'm looking at this. What's fun for you? What things can we relate to? And again, I feel like I've come full circle. When I was young, we said, don't talk about personal things. This is a professional environment. And now the older I get, the more I'm like, no, we need to have a couple of minutes and put them aside and cherish them. And let's talk about those personal things. Are you married? Do you have kids? Do you have any pets? What do you do for entertainment? Let's get to know one another. Let's not just, you know, well, Bob has got a degree in this and Bob can talk about accounting and he can add numbers very well. And Bob is probably the most boring person you know then. So spend the time on relationships in school.
Yeah. Okay. Stuti is asking, how do we manage emotions if children do not meet our expectations?
I'm going to turn around and tell you, first of all, it might be about you. It might not be about them. The one I still use it as an example years later is one time I saw a mother in a store with her child. And the child literally had laid on the floor and was having a temper tantrum because the kid wanted a toy. And mom grabs the toy and says, here it is, shut up. And then the parent turned to me and said, I don't know why my child does this. I always tell him to stop. Well, what did mom do? Mom rewarded that behavior. And mom wasn't even aware that she was supporting that behavior. So you get things of what are we modeling? What are we showing? What do our children hear? And I say our children and children of all ages. What do we hear? My company's not fair to me. And we see them expressing the teacher is not fair to them. Well, they heard you saying the same thing. You announce, I'm not going to do my work today because I just don't feel like it. And then you have your child announce, I don't feel like going to school today. And you wonder where your child learned it. Well, you've been a teacher, whether you realized it or not.
Yes. Thank you. Any more questions? You can unmute and ask also. Yeah, you can unmute and ask also if you feel, because there are some of professors are there, they're dealing with large amount of higher education children. So I would really wanted to check if they have any questions.
Can I, Annapurna ji?
Yes, yes, please, Stuti.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So thank you so much for the wonderful insight. my question was more towards, a teenager child who doesn't meet the career expectations of a parent. Maybe the parent, very, very true, maybe over expecting due to her or his education and expecting the same from the child. But how do we manage our emotions? That's what my question was. If the child doesn't come up to your expectations.
Well, so if your child doesn't meet your expectations, you don't care about your child anymore. You don't like them anymore. And I'm saying that pretty rhetorically, because it's a matter of letting them be who they want to be and who they are. I'm going to apologize for myself right off the bat. My father owned an engineering firm. My first jobs were as a draftsman in an engineering firm. I don't know that that job even exists now. But when Dad found out I didn't want to be an engineer and I wasn't spectacularly good in engineering like he was, I know I was a disappointment to Dad. Does that mean your child has failed, or does that mean you need to look from a different perspective? So, I mean, it's a matter of what we want and what we're looking for, what our dreams are, what our dreams aren't. And I'm going to emphasize a couple of pronouns here for you. You need to dream with your children, not for them. So when they want a different future than your dream was, look at the possibilities that they're looking for. Don't demand that they meet your expectations, that they meet your mindset, because the future that they're thinking of may be even better than you had possibly imagined. I wanted my daughter, I mean, you see the generational things. I told you my dad wanted me to be an engineer. I wasn't. I was a business professor, so of course I wanted my daughter to be a business person. My daughter is a very successful physical therapist. And since you guys don't get to talk to my daughter, she's a lot smarter than I am. She's got 3 children. She's delighted with her life. And I'm more than delighted that she's happy with her life. Did she ever become the business student I wanted her to be? No. But she's happy and I'm happy.
Good.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Siti. Any other questions? Anyone? Wonderful. I think we had done good justification of asking questions also. Well, let's wind it up. If supposing there isn't any other questions, and Bob is always there, you can always connect with him on LinkedIn and ask any kind of questions. Check with him on emotional intelligence, and I think he's a EI encyclopedia. I could put it in that way, because he does so much of research on various topics of it. So, and still he considers himself as a EI practitioner. As I told you, he tells that I have not yet arrived. So that's what EI does to a human being. So thank you, Bob. Thank you for being with us and sharing all the thoughts on why EI in higher education. And thank you all of you for joining us for this wonderful evening from the Grandmaster, listening from him. And of course, Bella is our student who is learning from Bob directly. And thank you, Bella, for joining over there. I know you're from the first cohort of understanding EI in higher education applications. So she's learning well. As I told you in the beginning, we are having the second cohort starting from 19th of March. Get in touch with us, and definitely you will be getting to learn the whole of application of EI in higher education. We also are curating the positive psychology summit. So you can always register and be with us on this 14th of February, this Sunday, and enjoy learning more of aspects of EI only. So definitely please join for that also too. I think Lata has already posted the link. Maybe we can post it once more. Yes, we can do that. And thank each one of you. Before you leave, let's do the honors. We just generally, we take a group picture and we wanted every one of you to come on screen, and then I will let you know what to do. So thank you for all those wonderful comments which are coming up over there. Thank you so much. Rachna, will you be able to pick up the picture, or you wanted me to do, or how is it?
I'm clicking if everyone comes on screen.
Okay, we will do that. 1 second, just hold on. Just hold on. Dr. Annapurna, Anita, Padmaja, Arpita,